My name is Blayne Wyton from Morden, Manitoba.
And I'm Tara Wyton. The purpose of our trip was to visit a place called Gentle Hands. And they are in Manila, and as well as now they're opening in India, which is what we were part of. We were asked to be a part of the groundbreaking kind of start of what Gentle Hands is doing in India. Gentle Hands Philippines, it looks a little different than it does in India. In the Philippines, they are a rescue and rehabilitation center. Here in the West, we refer to it as an orphanage because it makes sense. There, it's a little different. So what they do is they rescue, rehabilitate people, children specifically, that have been abandoned, abused, neglected, and they rehabilitate them to health and bring them back to their families. And some are rehabilitated to health and then actually adopted into different parts of the world. India's looks a little different. What they are doing is they're rescuing children that have been either orphaned or are part of, because their family is part of, the sex trafficking industry in India. So they're going to be rescuing the children off the street so that they in turn are not part of the statistic of children being trafficked at the ages of 7, 8, 9, and 10.
I guess what really struck me about Gentle Hands when we started there, or when we first heard about it, is they started 25 years ago as a birthing clinic. And in the Philippines, birthing was very primitive at the time. And when Gentle Hands started there, Deanie Hepner started. She started doing birthing clinic out of her home. And eventually, over time, they changed the way that birthing was done in the Philippines to the point where it actually shamed the government system. And so celebrities and stuff started coming to the Philippines, to Gentle Hands in the Philippines to have their babies. And so it actually changed the way that birthing was done in the Philippines to the point where the government hospitals changed.
It is amazing, and to be able to go back, we've gone back now twice, specifically to Gentle Hands in the Philippines, and to see the children from one year to the next, the healing that has taken place, not only physically in their body, but just this wholeness and this peace and this hope that they have found. Gentle Hands is a Christian organization, and so within the walls of Gentle Hands, these children are taught about God's love. And that is a huge part of their healing and their rehabilitation. And it's beautiful to see these children that a year ago, one little boy couldn't speak at all. He'd been abused so terribly badly that he couldn't speak. And to watch him grab my hand and smile at me and answer my questions and talk to me, that was huge. While we were there specifically, this year, there was one set of siblings, 2 little boys, and another little girl who for the very first time got to see pictures of what their adoptive family looked like. And there was so much joy as she held these pictures and she flipped through them and it struck me that the first time in her life, she had something of her own. She came when she was just months old to Gentle Hands and with only a diaper shirt on, that's all she had on. And that's all she's ever owned of her own. And so watching her flip through the pictures, and there's a picture of a horse and a picture of a birthday cake, and she was so excited because she'd never, ever had any of those things. Well, I think they saw that there was a huge need in India for a place of rescue. And there are lots of amazing organizations in and among Chennai that are doing that specifically. But there was no specific girls' home that would be catering to what Gentle Hands India saw as their vision, as their goal. And the people that we came with, the Hepners that are from the Philippines, he works out of Chennai as well. And so he was constantly seeing this need. And so what they are doing is that they're going to spend their time, they're going to spend their resources in rescuing these girls and bringing them to a place of safety, a place that they can have an education, that most of the street girls that live in these areas don't have the chance of education. They don't have the chance of anything other than what they've always known. And that's a huge key in these areas, is that when you educate them, you open up their future. We take that for granted here, and we have to go to school. There, it's not a mandatory thing. And when you live in the streets, and there's probably no record of your birth or you even being alive, you're not registered for school. There is no priority in that. And so when you can educate the children, when you can give them hope, you open up the future and you change that nation. You really do. Mumbai is one of the largest red light districts in the entire world. And we went specifically because of what we were going to be doing in Chennai and because of what Gentle Hands was doing in Chennai to see how these children live specifically. And as we're driving through these very narrow, shady streets that are dark, there's little 2- and 3-year-old children running around with no supervision, no parents around. And it was really heartbreaking to see. But even more heartbreaking was that the young 12, 13-year-old girls standing on the streets because they've been trafficked there. And it was this lostness and this desperation in them that they couldn't leave. They had nothing else to go to because they'd been ripped away from their families, some specifically even sold by their families and brought to this place. And it was looking into the faces of somebody that had nothing. They almost looked dead. There was no hope in their eyes. There was no hope for any future because of what had been happening to them and what continues to happen to them. And there needs to be people that step up, people that go into these places. And there are amazing organizations working within those areas. But we need to be aware of what is happening in the world so that we can change. That is what we are called to do. We are called to change the nations. We are called to take those out of chains and bring them to freedom.
I think what really shocked me when I was there is before a month ago, I honestly believed if somebody was in prostitution, they were there because they chose to be there. And when you go across the world and it's so in your face that a 13-year-old girl isn't caught in that because she wants to be. She's been put in chains of some sort to be there. And when I've come home now, I can see that we put people in chains here in our own country. And there's people that are caught doing stuff that they don't want to be doing. It's just they have no choice. That's the chains here, or the cages here in North America, are basically drugs. I think if you can get somebody addicted to drugs, you've got them in chains. And I think just that shift in my thinking since we've come home, that these people are hurting. And they don't need us to drive by them on the street and mock them and razz them and honk at them. They need somebody to just come by and love them. And to love them exactly where they're at today.